Close your eyes. I want you to imagine the smell of a prehistoric cave in the middle of a thunderstorm. It's not a pleasant scent. It's a thick, heavy mixture of wet animal fur, wood smoke, and the copper tang of old bone. Across from you, huddled near a sputtering fire, sits a hunter we'll call Grog. Grog is a mess. His hair is a matted tangle of mud and dried grass. His skin is stained gray with the soot of 1,000 campfires. He hasn't washed his hands in weeks, and he's currently using a jagged piece of flint to scrape the raw marrow out of a deer's femur. He is the very definition of unhygienic. But then, Grog looks up at you. He gives you a massive, wide-mouthed grin. And that's when you see it, the impossible. His teeth aren't just there, they are perfect. They are straight, brilliant white, and look like they've been polished by a professional. There are no black holes of decay, no crooked overlaps, and not a single missing molar. Grog has never seen a toothbrush. He has never heard of fluoride. He doesn't even know what a dentist is. Yet his dental health is better than yours will ever be. In our world, we are taught that the mouth is a fragile porcelain house that is constantly on the verge of collapsing. We're told that if we miss just one night of brushing, we are inviting a bacterial disaster. We spend billions of dollars every year on vibrating electric toothbrushes, chemical rinses, and painful surgeries just to keep our teeth from rotting out of our skulls. But when archaeologists dig up the skeletons of hunter-gatherers from 30,000 years ago, they find a dental record that is almost offensive to a modern human. They find rows of teeth that are nearly perfect, no cavities, no impacted wisdom teeth, no crowding. How did people who lived in the mud, eating whatever they could scavenge from the dirt, manage to have better dental health than you do with all your 21st century technology? Today, we are doing a deep dive into the secret history of the human mouth. We're going back to a time when your dinner was your toothbrush. We're looking at the biological gym that kept our ancestors' jaws strong, and we're identifying the exact moment in history when the rot officially set in. Today we're asking, why didn't ancient humans have rotten teeth? The microbiome, a war without sugar. To understand the health of an ancient mouth, we have to look past the enamel and into the invisible world of the microbiome. Your mouth is a living, breathing ecosystem, home to billions of bacteria. In the modern world, that ecosystem is in a state of permanent, agonizing collapse. Most of us were raised on the idea that sugar causes cavities. But that's a bit of a simplification. Sugar doesn't actually eat your teeth, bacteria do. Specifically, a group of bacteria called Streptococcus mutans. These are the primary villains of our story. They love refined carbohydrates and simple sugars more than anything else in the world. When you eat a piece of white bread, a bowl of cereal, or a sugary snack, you aren't just feeding yourself. You are throwing a high-octane fuel party for the worst bacteria in your mouth. As these bacteria feast, they excrete acid as a byproduct. It's this acid, not the sugar itself, that dissolves your enamel, creates microscopic holes, and eventually leads to the painful rot that keeps dentists in business. Ancient humans like Grog had a massive biological advantage. Their villains were starving to death. In a prehistoric diet, refined sugar simply didn't exist. Even the sweet things were fundamentally different. If a hunter-gatherer found a wild fruit 25,000 years ago, it wouldn't look like the giant glowing sugar bombs we see in our supermarkets today. A wild apple back then was often the size of a marble, incredibly bitter, and filled with tough, stringy fibers. It had almost zero simple sugar. Because their diet was dominated by lean proteins, complex tubers, and fibrous wild plants, the acid-producing bacteria couldn't get a foothold. Their oral ecosystem was balanced. They had bacteria, sure, but they didn't have the sugar-fueled army that modern humans carry around. Their teeth weren't rotting because the very thing that triggers the rot, refined concentrated sugar, hadn't been invented yet. The jaw gym, the secret of the straight smile. Now, let's talk about aesthetics. Have you ever wondered why almost every teenager in the modern world seems to need braces? Or why getting your wisdom teeth pulled is considered a rite of passage? It's not because your teeth are bad or defective. It's because your jaw is literally too small for your face. But here's the kicker. It wasn't always this way. Ancient humans almost never had crooked teeth. When archaeologists find a hunter-gatherer skull from the Paleolithic, they don't see crowding. They see wide, robust jaw bones with more than enough room for every single tooth, including the wisdom teeth, to grow in perfectly straight. They didn't need orthodontists because their biology did the work for them. Bone is a dynamic, living tissue. It responds to mechanical stress. If you use a bone heavily, it responds by growing thicker, wider, and more robust. Ancient humans were essentially working out their faces from the moment they stopped nursing. They weren't eating soft bread, mashed potatoes, or tenderized meats. They were chewing on raw roots, gristly wild game, and hard nuts for hours every single day. This constant mechanical stress signaled the jawbone to expand during childhood. Because they used their mouths as a heavy-duty tool, their jaws grew to the exact size their DNA intended. Today, we feed our babies soft mush. We eat processed foods that require almost zero effort to swallow. Because we don't exercise our jaws during those critical growth years, our jawbones stay narrow and underdeveloped, but your DNA doesn't know that the rules have changed. It still tries to cram 32 teeth into a space that, due to our soft diet, only has room for about 28. The result is the crowded, overlapping, crooked mess that we have to spend thousands of dollars to fix with metal and wires. Ancient humans didn't have perfect teeth by luck. They had them because their lifestyle forced their bodies to grow the way they were designed to grow. Nature's toothbrush, the grit, and the grind. Here is a weird historical detail that would probably make a modern dental hygienist faint. Ancient food was incredibly, undeniably dirty. If you are roasting a mammoth leg in a pit of hot coals, it is going to be covered in ash. If you are digging up a wild tuber from the earth with your bare hands, it's going to have bits of sand and grit clinging to it. There were no taps to wash the food, no vegetable spray, and no plastic packaging. Ancient humans ate the grit. But strangely enough, this filth was their secret weapon for oral hygiene. The combination of high-fiber plants and abrasive sand acted as a natural mechanical toothbrush. Every single time Grog took a bite of his dinner, he was physically scrubbing the plaque and film off the surface of his teeth. The tough fibers of the plants acted like natural dental floss, and the grit from the earth acted like a heavy-duty polishing paste. They didn't need to brush their teeth because every meal they ate was a professional-grade cleaning session. However, this natural cleaning came with a heavy price. Because their food was so abrasive, they were essentially sanding their teeth down every single day of their lives. If you look at the teeth of a 40-year-old hunter-gatherer, the biting surfaces are often ground down completely flat, sometimes all the way to the gum line. They didn't have cavities, but they were literally using up their teeth through sheer friction. It was a race against time. Could they survive long enough before they literally wore their teeth away to nothing? The turning point, the agricultural disaster. So if everything was so perfect on the savannah, when did the disaster start? When did the rot officially enter the human story? The change happened almost overnight in evolutionary terms, exactly 12,000 years ago during the agricultural revolution. This is the moment when we essentially traded our dental health for a stable food supply. The villains of the piece were wheat, barley, and rice. Suddenly, instead of a diverse diet of lean proteins and tough, gritty fibers, humans were eating massive amounts of soft, sticky carbohydrates. When you cook grains into breads or porridges, they become fermentable. They stick to your teeth like glue, creating a 24-hour, all-you-can-eat buffet for those acid-producing bacteria we talked about earlier. Archaeologists can see this shift in the fossil record with haunting precision. You find a skull from 15,000 years ago, the teeth are perfect. You find a skull from 8,000 years ago in a farming village, the teeth are riddled with cavities, painful abscesses, and signs of massive systemic infection. We invited the rot into our mouths so we could build cities. We chose calories over our own biological integrity. The history of your teeth is a history of that choice. Every filling in your mouth, every crown, and every root canal is a tiny monument to the day we stopped wandering the forest and started planting the field. So, why didn't ancient humans have rotten teeth? It wasn't magic, and it wasn't because they were cleaner than we are. In fact, they were much, much dirtier. They had perfect teeth because they lived in perfect balance with what their bodies were evolved to do. They ate the food their teeth were built to process, and they used their jaws the way nature intended. The next time you're sitting in that cold dentist's chair, listening to the high-pitched whine of the drill, remember, you are carrying the weight of 12,000 years of progress in your jaw. You are a prehistoric machine trying to survive in a modern world of soft bread, refined sugar, and processed mush. You carry the history of our entire species in your own smile. Every crooked tooth, every wisdom tooth surgery, and every cavity is a reminder of the moment we left the savannah behind and traded our perfect teeth for a seat at the table of civilization. Human blueprint, and this is why you are history.